Tomorrow night, the gates of British Steel's Dissington foundry will close for the last time, and another 400 men will join the dole queue. It's the kind of story which has come to be expected in this West Cumbrian town, where unemployment has all but tripled in the last 2 years. When the Conservatives swept to power in May of 1979, Workington had an unemployment rate of just over 7%. But when British Steel closed down their blast furnaces at Moss Bay, starting from Saturday, another 900 will go onto the dole, and the unemployment figure will climb to almost 20%. That will mean a staggering 1 in 5 of the working population will be without a job. The majority of the blame for this spiral has fallen at the feet of British Steel, who have cut their workforce of more than 5,000 to one of less than 2,000. With the heart going out of the textiles trade, Courtaulds have closed down, and Condura Fabrics have more than halved their workforce. The shoe industry has also been badly hit. So with the main employers in the area either cutting back or going to the wall, every day more and more people who've been hard-working all their lives suddenly find themselves on what they feel is the unemployment scrap heap. The daily visit to the job centre in a vain search for work that just isn't there.
We have at the present time in our books 4,400 people who are chasing approximately 100 jobs, and it's becoming increasingly difficult. But we're doing our best, and we're trying everything we know to get the jobs into the job centres and employment offices in West Cumbria.
And on top of that, what difficulties do you face?
Well, obviously, every job we get isn't suitable for every person that we have on the books. So therefore, we have a situation where not everybody can apply for all jobs. But as I say, we do keep trying.
Do you see any hope in the future for Workington's unemployed?
Well, certainly there are developments at the BNFL complex and the Barrow Gas organisation that may hold something for the future. And we're very hopeful that employers from those particular areas will come and look at West Cumbria's labour force and see if it can be of benefit to them.
There is then some hope of new jobs in the future, but that will only bring down the unemployment rate if those jobs which have survived so far don't now succumb to the axe. The people of Workington seem most worried about whether even the remaining 1,900 jobs of British Steel will last. So fundamentally has their confidence in the corporation been shaken by the slashing of 3,000 jobs which, till 2 years ago, they saw as theirs for generations to come. What then are British Steel doing for the workers they've made redundant?
Well, we're doing what we can to counsel them, firstly, in terms of what they're entitled to, all the various benefits and so on and so forth that redundant people are entitled to, and also doing what we can to open up all the opportunities to various alternative forms of employment and so on, and ways and means through the local employment agencies and so on to satisfy that particular need. Other than that, we're talking at the present moment with the British Steel industry chaps who are actually in consultation with the local authorities here at the present moment to see what's the right sort of approach to take in a situation like Cumbria, because no two steel redundancy situations are the same and no two areas' needs are the same, and I'd expect within a month or two we ought to have some ideas as to how that will work out, and hopefully there will be something much more positive resulting from that.
Have you fought as hard as you should have fought to stop these redundancies happening?
Well, I don't really know what you mean by should have fought. I'm a manager. I regard the preservation of businesses here as the absolute top priority. The only condition I have to accept to that is being that we actually make money or have viable businesses. We've done everything we possibly can, really, in answer to your question, to make absolutely certain that we've obtained the maximum possible tonnage from the market that we could. And the trouble is that since 1979, the foundry market in this country has contracted by 2/3. And even if we had the whole market, which we have no hope of getting, we couldn't sustain a single blast furnace operation here.
So are you confident that British Steel can maintain a presence in Workington with 1,900 workers?
Oh yes, I mean, we're not talking about 1,900 workers so much as we're talking about 4 separate businesses. Barrow, the railway business, the Ogden and Lawson copper business, and the Cumbria engineering business. And all of those businesses are right now in profit. They've all had to be fought for like hell. I mean, we've had situations at one time and another in the last 3 or 4 years where each one has been subject to closure or transfer out, where we've fought, we've found new markets, we've reset them, we've put new capital in and restructured and so on, and we've got those 4 in business.
British Steel seem confident that the axe they've taken to their workforce in West Cumbria has finally been blunted. But what effect have they had, these redundancies which have rocked the town in the steel, textiles and shoe industries? You'd expect Workington to be depressed and traders going to the wall. But that would be to forget redundancy payments, some as high as £15,000, and human nature. Many people seem to be pouring balm on their wounds with a spending spree and leaving tomorrow to look after itself. Others know that if they've more than £2,000 in the bank, they can't claim supplementary benefits from Social Security.
Well, up to now, the redundancies haven't been felt too badly. I think they've been largely cushioned by the redundancy payments and earnings-related benefits.
But in the long term, what's going to be the effect when the redundancy payments are being used up?
Well, I think it's possible in 12 months' time, if there is no improvement in the situation, that some of the shops could go to the wall in Workington.
So how do you see the survival of tradespeople in Workington? What hope do you have for them?
Well, I think really the only thing we can do is to hope to increase our catchment area throughout the county. There has been a tendency in the last 4 years for Workington to grow since the development of the shopping centre, and people have been travelling from wider areas to shop in Workington.
There is then concern for the future, but for the moment the majority of the shopkeepers seem to be benefiting from the spend, spend, spend bonanza.
Over the last 9 weeks we've been top branch out of 23 from Blackpool to Kilmarnock, so that I'm quite confident that working is going to be all right.
Why do you think this is happening to you?
I think, for me personally, I think maybe because we're maybe lower priced, so that people, when they're a bit hard up, they come downscale a little bit and buy perhaps a little bit cheaper garments. But, you know, that when you talk about one in 5 being out of work, there's 4 people working, so people have got to clothe themselves and they've got to eat, so I think there's enough people spending money.
Well, we have a competition. We have 15 shops ranging from Rochdale up into Dumfries, and it's a competition between Dumfries and our shop, which is the top shop. And
why do you think you're doing so well?
Well, it's the teenagers that's got the money, and it's the teenagers that spend. You know.
Mr. Elder, how's business with you at the moment?
Very good. No complaints at all. So far this year we've had a good year.
Why is this?
Well, I find that in the holiday and leisure business, this seems to be the last thing that people want to cut out. They seem to have the money for the holidays, but they don't have the money for the new 3-piece suite and the cooker.
And what are your projections for the future?
For 1982, I don't think it'll be a boom year, but I don't think we'll have a bad year.
Well, at the moment we're just holding our own, you know. From last year, like, you know, we're just holding our own, but if things get very worse, I'm afraid it could be pretty bad for this area of Workington.
We've got to rethink our business. I mean, it's everybody would like to stock nice shoes, everybody like to wear nice clothes, but if you just haven't got the money to buy them, there's no point in stocking them, is there?
A lot of our customers are women, and if you ask them, their husbands have had to go away to work. I mean, my own family is a good example. My eldest son's left home, gone to Manchester, earning good money in Manchester, so I think you think there's a lot of people leaving Workington. Maybe the family isn't leaving Workington, but they are, so the money's coming back into Workington in the way of keeping the family, so, you know, we're doing all right.
It's all very well for people in London to say that we're coming to the bottom of the recession, but as far as Workington's concerned, it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, but we're hopeful for the long-term future. We're hoping to open another shop in Seaton, which is just 2 or 3 miles from Workington, and we wouldn't be planning to do that if we didn't believe that there was a future in this area.
Do you fear for the future?
Well, yes, you keep thinking, you know, if it's got to happen, we're going to suffer, but at the moment we haven't, we're not.
An uneasy boom today is tempered with definite concern for the future by traders. And teachers who have the job of educating the townspeople of tomorrow are already worried. Some see fundamental changes in schools as they grapple with what it will mean to educate children not for work, but for a lifetime without a job. This July, nearly 600 youngsters will leave school in Workington and start looking for a job.
I think
myself that young people may well have to face the prospect that if they want work, they may have to leave the area to get it. My own experience, having lived in Cumbria for nearly 20 years, is that Cumbrians are very, very loyal to the area in which they were brought up, and that I have nothing but praise for.
In the past, you've educated young people for work. What are you going to be educating them for in the future?
Well, that, of course, is the big question. For some years now, schools have been aware of the need to educate pupils for what is generally called education for leisure. And I think this may well be going to play a much larger part in the future, because people may well have much more enforced leisure than they need. And I think they do need guidance and help in filling up this time, which in the past has traditionally been filled by the work ethic.
The effects of redundancy are already felt by Workington's 4,500 unemployed and by their families. On the dole, a man picks up £20.65 a week, another £12.75 for his wife, and £1.25 for each of his children. But often it's not so much the lack of money which concerns the redundant. The real disaster of Workington appears to be much more the lack of a sense of purpose of so many of its people. They say they just exist from day to day, with no hope of getting a job and no future.
Everybody's desperate, right from management right down to the workers. And I think it applies to all around the area that every day is a bonus to be in work.
Well, I'm married with one child and one on the way.
Where are you living?
I'm living in with my mother-in-law and father-in-law.
You haven't any work, have you?
No.
How long have you been like that?
Since April and May.
Well, my husband's one of 7 brothers on the steelworks. 6 of them were on the iron end of the steelworks, and all their jobs have got to go.
How are they going to cope with their families?
Well, on the dole queue, I don't think very well. Mortgages to pay, rents to pay, children to keep. Don't know how they're going to cope.
I've just been around the neighbours, like, for jigsaw puddles and that. Just try and fill the day in.
You're 21. How do you see your future?
There isn't any, I don't think. I've been trying. I would like to stop in a building trade, like, but there's no building trade jobs going.
Are you prepared to move away from Workington to find work? Why not?
Well, it's all my family here, isn't it?
Well, I bought myself a greenhouse. You've got to get some kind of hobby, haven't you? And do all housework for a while.
I do work in the Mill Close Hotel here, the public house, that friends that I've known all my life, they're out of work, and they come in, hail fellow well met, they get their first pint, and they stare into space, and they're the same men that they used to be. And I think this is the big one.
Just living day to day, go for a pint, you know, so stop watching television.
What effect has being made redundant had on your personal life?
A hell of a lot. I've lost my wife through it. You know, kids, whether they get waiting anybody divorce, things like that.
I'm guaranteed to be kept on lending me apprenticeship, but after that, it pays off. That's it.
How hard are you trying to find a job?
Well, I've got a job centre every day and it's not at all.
So how do you fill your days then?
Just potter around and know what to do, just live from day to day.
How do you see your future?
Bleak.